Hello and welcome to this short video on step-by-step instructions to deploy terminologies with Termhub. This is an open Termhub tutorial about loading data into a runtime container using syndication from a configuration with a set of real full-size terminologies. The other tutorials cover a sandbox. The first thing you'll want to do is create a Termhub account where you can go to the sign up page to do that. If you have an account already, you can just go to the login page. And then now we'll start by taking a look at creating a project. Here I am logged into a demonstration account. Once in here, you go to the projects on the left sidebar here, and then you say new project. When you're creating a project, you got to pick the organization you want it to be part of. When you created your account, you were assigned a default org, or if you specify the organization, it'll exist and be available here also. And then we're going to use the project name here that we show, which is Open Termhub Test Project. And we'll use this for the description as well. And then we'll come down here and we'll add some terminologies. So first we'll look up SNOMED. This is the international edition of SNOMED, and for this we want to show the SNOMED US extension. And we're going to add the latest version of that as well as the mappings to ICD-10-CM and a value set that is for the extension concepts within the SNOMED extension itself. Next, we'll add ICD-10-CM. We've already got the map on the other side, and we'll put the terminology in there too. And then we'll put LOINC in here. This LNC is the NLM representation of LOINC in the UMLS, and this is the version that comes from the registry files. And then for good measure, we'll put in a couple of small terminologies, so the ISO 639 language sets. Once you've done that, then we can scroll down to the section below, which kind of summarizes the project configuration, and everything looks good. We're ready to create the project. So a project is essentially a configuration that has a set of terminology assets that can be used within this context to perform searches, do terminology browsing, and interact with the API. The idea is that it's easy to set up different configurations of terminologies for different use cases. We've chosen latest for everything. You can also choose specific versions. A lot of that is outside the scope of this tutorial. We're really just demonstrating how to set up a syndication mechanism and deploy all this content that we're looking at here to the Termhub container using syndication. So we'll come back now and edit the project, and you'll see this project API key section. We can add an API key, and then we can copy it. And then we need to come down here and save the project, and we're ready to go. So what we'll do is come over here, and the first thing we want to do is configure our API key to the value that we just got from there. And then we're going to choose a directory in which to put the index data. And so what we're going to do here is just set up an index directory in temp space, and then we're going to clean it up, remake the directories, and just make the permissions available. This is a starting setup, so we want basically an empty volume. And when we launch the container, it's going to syndicate all the data, and that will enable the indexes to be built. This whole system uses Lucene indexes internally, so it has no dependencies on databases or Elasticsearch or other things. It's a completely self-contained environment. And that allows volumes to actually be mounted to runtime containers, which are pre-computed and other things like that to make deployment strategies more effective. Then the next thing to do is to actually run the Docker container. And then this will start a Docker in the background in this particular container. So we can get the ID for that container, and we can go look at the logs here. Oops. Wanted to actually use this ID here. And then you'll see when the server starts up, the first thing it does is pull the syndication feed, and then it begins loading all the data. I preloaded this container earlier just to make the video more flexible. So this is kind of a second time of relaunching it, and you can see that in the end, it just rushes through, and then it kind of finishes and launches the container. But I've got a log here left over of the run from the full set of data, and it actually completed syndicating all the records. You can see how we loaded several things at the bottom here. And so when it completes, the container is ready to go and can be used. There are other deployment modes where you can preload containers and then save the data and then deploy them mounted to that volume to sort of streamline and auto scale and things like that. But we're keeping it simple here. Now that the container is running, we can come back and take a look at the embedded browser that's running in the container. So this project, we can browse itself in the Cloud Termhub instance, but now that we've actually deployed it to a running container, we can just go directly to that URL. So here we are opening the browser, and this is actually running against the Docker container that's currently running that has been loaded with data. We put in, as you recall, SNOMED, LOINC, ISO 639, ICD-10-CM. We also put in the SNOMED to ICD-10-CM mappings and this particular subset that contains the listing of the concepts that are, in fact, actually local to the US extension that aren't um, in the international edition. And then from here, you can essentially search the content and interact with it in various ways. Here, we'll do a just open-ended SNOMED search, and you kind of see there's a browser view. You can search around. And then this also has an API. So we could go to the Swagger page for this, and you can see that the native API that Termhub itself offers is available, but we also have Fire 4 and Fire 5 terminology APIs. So open the R4, and this will load another Swagger page for the Fire endpoints themselves that would allow you to interact in this case. So you could come in here, for example, and just look up all the code systems that are installed. And here we go. We've got SNOMED and ISO, the other ISO, and so on. So that's just really a quick view of what's involved in step-by-step instructions to deploy terminologies with Termhub. Please try it out for yourself and let us know what you think. Thanks.